let you go, it'd be remiss of me not to ask you about your own future. Bare knuckle boxing seems to be the thing. What's attracted you to that realm?
You know, Dave Feldman of Bare Knuckle Fighting Championship came to me, and if you would have told me at the beginning of the year if I'd be fighting again, I probably would have told you no. You know, I'm pretty comfortable where I'm at right now. But you know, he had a vision, and obviously he threw some good money. I mean, obviously money's always gonna open your eyes if there's enough, right? So obviously offered some good money, and you know, he was a straight shooter first as well. You know, he was really a guy who, you know, you don't typically see in these kind of businesses, a straight shooter, really upfront about everything. And of course, then as once he got my attention with the money, I started to notice he was a straight shooter. And then, of course, I saw his vision. You know, his vision. I liked the vision that he had. I saw he was a go-getter, and I started to appreciate his vision. So it kind of all came together, and I started to realize, yes, he's looking for a bigger name to be involved with his brand, so that his brand can get attention from crossover media that has not given it attention yet. You know, so I fit that line of thinking. You know, so I understand what this is, and it's sort of a one hand washing the other. Where me, on the other hand, I will be able to make some money and obviously be able to get that fix in for still maybe having a little bit of a hunger for the limelight or for the spotlight.
Are you not worried about your hands though? Because you had hand problems as a boxer, and now it's bare knuckle.
Yeah, of course. You know, I think that's always going to be the conversation. But of course, I think there's certain things you do and certain ways you approach the fight. Listen, if I told you, I'd be remiss to say, listen, I'm not going to get hurt or whatever. You know, it's a fight. It's a fight. So anything can happen. You can hurt your hands. You can hurt your face. You can hurt whatever. You know. But I really like the vision Dave had. You know, Dave Feldman had, and I feel like, you know, he's got a good vision, and I feel like this is going to be a growing product. I really do. I heard it's very popular here in England, the UK as well. Bare knuckle, you know, and in the US with this bare knuckle fighting championship is starting to get more traction, more and more. And I think since I joined it, it's getting even more traction. So I think this could be sort of a wave of the future, sort of a hybrid. You know, right now you tend to have mixed martial arts fans and boxing fans separate. You know, you either watch one or the other for some reason, or you're a big fan of one and just a casual of the other. Well, I think now this sort of hybrid thing can bring together the two. You know, because the bare knuckle aspect, mixed martial arts fans love that, but of course it's boxing, so the boxing fans love that. So I think if you just get the proper eyes in front of it, like sort of like Ultimate Boxing, getting the proper eyes in front of it, I think people will take to it, you know? And I think that was part of the reason for signing a guy like me, is to get more of the eyeballs on the sport.
And one last question, I have to ask this even though it's off topic. When Conor McGregor put out that sparring video, however long ago it was, did you ever imagine that fans would still be talking about the feud between you guys so long later?
No, I figured if there had been this much talk about it, eventually he would have released the sparring, you know? Even if it wasn't good for him, I figured eventually he would have released the sparring, you know? I wasn't very confident that if sparring would ever get released. I remember when the clip first came out, they said it was about, they couldn't release it because, you know, he had to fight Mayweather first, and he didn't want Mayweather to see what he was doing. Truthful, that was all BS anyway, you know? I mean, I think Conor fully could have gave Conor a front row seat in all his training sessions, and let Conor watch all the training sessions. It still wouldn't have made a difference, you know. So I don't think that ever was the reason. But I knew that was just an excuse, and nothing was ever going to get released. And so, you know, I figured I tell you what, I didn't think in 2 years it would be a topic, but I thought if it had been a topic in 2 years, it would have been released by now. You know what I'm saying?
And that a fight might have happened by now.
Again, I wasn't very confident about a fight ever happening either, because again, I couldn't go any easier on him. You know, I was out of shape. I had just flown across the country. It couldn't be a worse version of me. You know what I'm saying? That got in the ring with him. If I can still go 12 rounds with you, you know, Danny, it's like, what's one thing? You watch fighting, you know fighting. So to give a beating, you have to be in good shape. So obviously I couldn't give a proper beating because I wasn't in great shape. But to take a beating, you have to be in even better shape to go 12 rounds anyway, right? Because you go take a 12-round beating.
Mikey Garcia's just shown us that.
Yes, you have got to be in proper shape to take a 12-round beating. So the fact that I went 12 rounds, not training, flying across country in less than 24 hours before, I mean, it kind of self-explanatory what happened in the sparring, or who controlled at least the tempo. Because I got to at least be able to control the tempo of the sparring in order to even go 12 rounds, you know? So in that kind of shape. So, you know, let's face it, Conor's a wild guy. He's a very promotable guy, but he's not a stupid guy. You know what I'm saying? And so at day's end, he knows the only reason he didn't get stopped even in the spar is because my assaults couldn't be followed up. I wasn't in good enough shape to land a good assault, a salvo, and then follow it up with another good salvo, another good salvo. If I was in that kind of shape, with 16-ounce gloves and a headgear, he doesn't finish 12 rounds, you know, and he knows that, and I knew that. And he probably understood that as I'm going to get in better and better shape in that training camp, and it's probably going to be pretty bad for him by the end of training camp. So he's probably like, I need to get this guy out of here. I need to annoy him. I need to get under his skin so he gets out of here. I think that what that 12 rounds did was probably worse for him than it was for me. You know what I'm saying? Ultimately, yeah, it was bad for me because of everything that happened afterwards. But I couldn't have imagined it'd be talked about in 2 years, at least not without the fight or not without the sparring being released. But I couldn't have imagined even more that now it's led me to get a big money contract with BKFC. I guess all's well that ends well. I guess I unwillingly played the long game in this, because really it was more annoying than anything. When it first happened, I was like, man, this is really annoying. Like, I had to get off my social media and like let other people run it because it was just getting to the point where it's too annoying. So I was like, but now it got to the point where it's like almost become like a comedy strip. Like, oh, was Paulie going to talk about Conor? Is Paulie going to talk about Conor? So, but it's almost like a comedy skit where I'll kind of like throw something out there just to let the fans flame it. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's almost like throwing a match into gasoline. I'll put out something and say, okay, let's watch it burn. And then I'll just kind of watch it burn and kind of have a tongue-in-cheek thing about it. But realistically speaking, I think at day's end, what you really probably have to have is the media loves asking me these questions about it. They love asking me about Conor McGregor, but I think it comes to the point now where 2 years later, Conor will deviously place a clip out there, or he'll deviously post a social media clip every few months just to keep it alive. Just to keep it alive. But I think it's come to the point where, yeah, fans, media loves to ask me questions about it, and fans are sick of hearing about it. But I think it's probably time the media stop being fans of Conor McGregor and asking Conor McGregor about it. I think it's come to the point where it's like, all right, buddy, let's just see it. Yes, we know what you said happened. We already know what you said. Yes, you gave Paulie a concussion, all that. Let's see it now. Can we see it? Yes, you gave a concussion. Paulie couldn't stand. Yeah, we know what you said. Now let's see it. But the problem is this, bro. He can get his ass full by Mayweather. He can get his ass full by Khabib, because really, it's forgivable. It's forgivable. Floyd, the best fighter ever, even though he wasn't active. Khabib, the best fighter in the UFC, even though, let's face it, Conor wouldn't have fought him if he hadn't seen him look vulnerable against Yaquinta a few months before. If he would be blown out Yaquinta, Conor wouldn't have went near him. So there's a thinking process to what Conor does. You can be forgiven for those though. You can't be forgiven for lying to your fan base. So fighting me can never happen, and releasing that video can never happen, because they'll forgive you for anything, but they won't forgive you for lying, and that's why you'll never see that video.
Well, I promise you, next time I interview you, whatever it's about, I will not mention his name next time.
Thank you. Or if you do, you gotta ask him too.
Yeah, if I ever see him, yeah, I will. He's hiding from me and you. That's what I tell myself.
That's the thing. Like I said, I don't mind answering the questions. They always asked, but I think it's probably time more questions are asked of him about this. Because we know his version of it, but he's letting us release it. That's all.
There you go, Conor McGregor. We dare you to come on Seconds Out and answer to Paulie Malignaggi. Cheers, Paul. Cheers. Appreciate it.